In this week's drive, we somersault in the soft and shifting sands, go messing about in boats, get all crossed up in the mean streets of Macau, and go along for a spin in Arizona. All this and more in this week's drive. Gathering storm clouds didn't bode well for the practice sessions ahead of the A1 Grand Prix of Malaysia. Only the first of the day's 4 sessions was run in dry conditions, so the teams that made a quick start to qualifying were the ones that prospered. France's Alexandre Premat qualified to start the shorter sprint race from second place with his 2 fastest laps. Team France has won 6 consecutive races, with victories in the sprint and feature races at the last 3 rounds. Ireland's Ralph Furman is one of the few drivers in the field to have raced before at the Sepang International Circuit. The former Jordan Formula One driver put his experience to good use and qualified to start the first race in 3rd place. He finished just 3 1/1000ths of a second ahead of Britain's Robbie Kerr. Pole position went to Team Switzerland, Neil Jani clocking the fastest time in the first session, and then he went on to top the final timesheets for the first time. The A1 Circus is in Malaysia for the 5th race on the 12-event calendar at Sepang, but absentees from this round included Team Russia. Intense heat and humidity were the first hurdles for the 23 remaining drivers, and then it rained. Appalling weather washed out the 3rd and 4th time sessions, and Brazil's Nelson Piquet Jr. was caught out by a torrential downpour, qualifying only 8th. There were no such problems for Jani, though.
Yeah, well, first run was okay, it was dry, everything went normal and we had quite a good run. And I knew I could improve for the second run, but then it started to drizzle a little bit and we decided to go early out. And then actually it even started to rain on some parts of the track quite heavily. So it was quite tricky, but managed to do another 54.5, I think just 1/10 slower, so it was enough to get pole.
Ominously, more rain was forecast for race day. But on the big day, the heavy weather that dominated qualifying had blown away, so the races could be held in fine conditions. Swiss driver Jani came under instant attack from France's Premat, the championship-leading team, as Italy's Enrico Toccacelli got onto the grass at the second corner. Jani maintained the lead around the first 2 corners, with Premat, winner of 4 of the 8 races so far this season, nipping at his heels. Premat got set to overtake Jani at the start of the final lap after slipstreaming the Swiss on the straight. Victory in the nip and tuck battle around the first and second corners went to Premat, who doggedly held on to the lead. The Frenchman went on to take the checkered flag, securing pole position for the feature race and adding 10 points to France's championship tally. Jani was second, just under 4 seconds off the pace, with Britain's Robbie Kerr third, ahead of Brazil's Nelson Piquet. Premat and Jani's battle continued at the start of the feature race, with the Swiss making a fast start and forcing his rival into a desperate blocking manoeuvre. Jani narrowly avoided a collision with the pit lane wall as Premat held firm. Kerr benefited from this early tussle, taking the outside line into the first corner and squeezing past Jani to move into second place. China's Tengyi Jiang's race ended abruptly on the second lap. He flipped his car and, unsurprisingly, took no further part in the event. The second retirement of the race occurred 3 laps later. Pakistan's Adam Khan was punted from behind by India's Arman Ebrahim and spun out onto the grass. Ebrahim had run straight into the back of his Asian rival and he was duly black-flagged and excluded from the race. Jani battled back to second place, while Kerr's race ended in the pits. Thomas Enger of the Czech Republic worked wonders, moving up from 16th on the grid to 3rd place. Canada's Sean McIntosh battled with Toccacello for 4th place until he shunted into the Italian and suffered a puncture. But Premat was again unstoppable, sealing his 6th and France's 8th A1 victory, having shared the driving with his countryman Nicolas Lapierre.
I'm lucky because Jani maybe was a little bit faster of me in the long race, and he has a lot of fighting with Rubicon, so I did a good gap. And after the mechanic and the team did a really good job in the pit stop.
With the result, France moves 27 points clear of Switzerland in the standings. Malaysia and the Netherlands tie for 6th place, and Portugal and Ireland tie for 8th. The French team will be looking to move a step closer to a maiden A1 Grand Prix title when racing resumes in Dubai. The NASCAR chase for the Cup travelled to Arizona for the penultimate round in the series. Denny Hamlin was on pole and led the pack at the start as the green flag waved, leading Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle and Bobby Labonte in the top 5. On lap 208, Bobby Labonte tapped Scott Riggs' car, forcing him to spin and hit the wall. Riggs was the 6th driver to be knocked out of the wild race. Jamie McMurray also spun. Meanwhile, with less than 100 laps remaining and knowing they could make it the rest of the way with 4 tyres and a tank full of fuel, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson came into the pits.
May have been a tire rub.
1 lap after racing resumed, more drivers were knocked out of the race when several cars piled up, including Jimmy Spencer, Mike Skinner, Jeff Burton and Bobby Hamilton. A further 8 laps later, racing resumed with Greg Biffle leading Carl Edwards and Rusty Wallace.
They're just like you say, you can't go 3 wide into turn 3. Too many cars, too little track. Yeah.
Kyle Busch took the lead for good on lap 286 with an inside move on Biffle, who had led for 189 of the 312 laps. Biffle dominated the race, but Busch timed his run to perfection. The youngster used pit stop strategy to get track position, taking the lead by staying on track when the leaders pitted. Chase leader Tony Stewart finished 4th behind the contender Greg Biffle and 4-time champion Jeff Gordon, giving him a 52-point lead over Jimmy Johnson and 87 over Carl Edwards with only 1 round remaining. Edwards, who won the previous 2 races, finished 6th and Johnson 7th.
Well, we saw his first.
Busch dedicated the win to his brother Kurt, suspended early in the day for a Friday night run-in with local police. The Class 1 Powerboat World Championship saw the teams in Qatar for the Doha Grand Prix. Victory 77's title hopes suffered a blow during qualifying, but incredibly, Mohamed Al-Mari and Jean-Marc Sanchez walked away from this spectacular 145-mile-an-hour crash unharmed. With the duo determined to race, the Victory 77 mechanics worked into the early hours of race day to prepare the team's spare boat for action, successfully as it turned out. The race got underway on time and with a full grid the next day. Reigning champions Spirit of Norway started the race from pole position, with standings leader Qatar 96 in 2nd. However, Victory 77 put their qualifying troubles behind them to make a flying start and battle for the lead. Spirit of Norway fought to maintain the lead, but there was no denying Victory 77. Spirit of Norway were forced to serve an extra long lap penalty. They'd run over a turn buoy, ironically in the previous round of the season, in Trondheim and Norway. That would cost driver Bart Ecker and throttleman Steve Curtis vital seconds, allowing Victory 77 to open up a gap. Qatar 96 held 3rd place ahead of Jotun. While their fellow Victory team crew led the way, there was a premature end to the race for Victory 7. An onboard camera captured the drama as Ali Al-Kwama and Rashid Al-Mari spun out of the race, but marshals and first aid teams were quickly on hand to aid the disappointed but otherwise unhurt crew. Championship leaders Qatar 96 took advantage of Spirit of Norway's penalty and moved into 2nd place. Sheikh Hassan bin Jabor Al Thani and Matteo Nicolini closed up on Victory 77, but they couldn't find the pace to claim the lead. Victory 77 hung on to complete a remarkable victory and moved into 3rd place in the championship. Qatar 96 increased their overall lead with 2nd place, but Spirit of Norway fought back to take 3rd, which keeps them in the hunt to defend their title.
I want to dedicate that victory to the whole staff of Victory team, to all the mechanic in Victory team. They are fantastic, and they did a fantastic job last night. And that win is for them and for us is just, you know, the cherry on the cake.
Round 5 is the 2nd Doha Grand Prix. The World Touring Car Championship came to a grinding halt shortly after the start in Macau. Most of the field came to a standstill at the Lisboa corner, while André Couto raced away. Couto led from Andy Priaulx, still in contention for the world title, but the race had to be restarted. Germany's Jörg Müller caused the pile-up, bouncing off the tyre wall and clipping Briton Robert Huff and Tom Coronel of the Netherlands. Priaulx took the lead once racing resumed. After Priaulx pitted, Couto's concentration was drawn to his rear-view mirror as Priaulx attempted to overtake, and the Brazilian drove straight into the tyre wall. Priaulx retook the lead, but the Briton's time in first place was short-lived. He was soon passed by Augusto Farfus, the Alfa Romeo, clearly faster on the straights. Priaulx came into the race trailing standings leader Dirk Müller by 1 point, with Fabrizio Giovanardi a further 4 points behind. But Giovanardi's hopes of cutting the deficit ended when he suffered a heavy crash. Priaulx collected precious championship points as he crossed the line in second place behind Farfus. Ricard Rydell took third, but Dirk Müller suddenly dropped from 4th place to 10th in the final seconds. The German had suffered a puncture on the very last lap, which gifted the championship lead to Priaulx. The top 8 finishers were reversed on the grid for round 20, so Priaulx, who needed a 5th place or better to seal the WTCC title, started the very last race of the year in 7th. His BMW teammate Duncan Heisman squeezed through to take an early lead. Priaulx also made a positive start, edging his way up to 4th. The Lisboa corner claimed yet another victim on lap 3. This time it was Dirk Müller who crashed, and with Giovanardi out of the action, that guaranteed the world title for Priaulx. Heisman won the final race of the season, while Priaulx claimed another second, the Briton remaining cool and taking the title. Priaulx topped the final standings with 101 points, while Dirk Müller settled for second place, some 15 points behind. The season saw 20 races, 10 countries, 12 different race winners, but only one champion. BMW won the manufacturer's title. The 15th UAE Desert Challenge was given a ceremonial send-off from Abu Dhabi as the 123 bikes, cars and trucks headed off for 5 days of spectacular cross-country action. In many ways, the event is seen as a final precursor to the main event in the off-road racing calendar, the Dakar Rally, which traditionally starts on New Year's Eve. But the Desert Challenge is the final stop for competitors on the 2005 calendar, and 6 times Middle East Rally champion Mohammed Salayem, who is also the event organizer, was there to send them on their way. Stefan Peter Hansel hoped to avoid trouble this year after seeing his bid for a hat-trick of Desert Challenge victories ruined by first-day mechanical failure last year. After victory in Egypt's Pharaoh's Rally, Mark Comer had only to avoid problems in the UAE to clinch the biker's world title. Peter Hansel enjoyed the very fast track with good firm sand and powered his Mitsubishi Pajero Evolution into a lead of more than 25 minutes. His Mitsubishi Works teammate, Spain's Joan Roma, was third, another 4 minutes adrift of the BMW X5 of Spain's Jose Luis Monterde. The UAE's Yahya Al-Heli and Ahmed bin Sukat, in a pair of Chevrolet pickups, were also in the early top 6, with UAE-based British driver Mark Powell separating them in 5th place in his Land Rover. In the quads event, championship leader Ricardo dos Santos enjoyed the company of local competitor Atif Al-Zaruni in the desert, the pair going into one checkpoint together. David Casteau was second, but 7 minutes and 15 seconds behind countryman Cyril Dupre, who's looking for a 4th Desert Challenge triumph. The 2003 world champion was still in with a chance for this year's crown, and not even clutch problems from the 70-kilometre mark in the 283-kilometre stage could stop him. All of the high flyers were keen to avoid serious crashes, like this luckily not so serious one, as the soft shifting sand, harsh light and searing temperatures caused lapses in concentration. After another day's hard racing, Dupre finished the second leg leading by a reduced but still healthy margin of 4 minutes and 3 seconds from Comer. The Spanish rider needed only to avoid a mechanical failure or some other major misfortune to be crowned world champion. David Casteau lost time and dropped back to third place, followed closely by the UAE's Khaled Khamis Ozair. He showed his liking for the conditions on a day when 2 special stages sent the cars, bikes and trucks on a demanding journey through the giant dunes of the empty quarter of the Arabian Peninsula.
Yes, today I'm a little bit happier. I hope the problems are all forgotten. We sorted things out, and that's the most important. I'm feeling really well, the 3 of us riding together for the whole day. We've not gone very fast, but at least we are preserving ourselves towards achieving our goals, which are to win the points. It was a good day after all. After starting ahead this morning, it wasn't easy to maintain the difference. So I tried to ride in a good rhythm. In the first special stage, the other riders caught up with me, so we were forced to go about with the others. Sometimes one goes faster, finds a quicker route. We're obliged to race together in this type of rally.
Peter Hansel, winner of the last 2 Dakar rallies, produced a strong performance in his Mitsubishi. The first half, before the second passage control, was very tricky, and the 8 times Dakar champion on 2 wheels and 4 lost around 30 minutes stuck in very soft sand on 2 occasions. But he still extended his lead to more than 1.5 hours over the BMW X5 of Spain's José Luis Monterde. Making the most of his local knowledge and benefiting from the withdrawal of Roma, the UAE's Yahya El-Heli swept into third place with his sights on Monterde. Roma and co-driver Henri Magny withdrew after Roma was struck with food poisoning for a second successive day on the first stage. Germany's Ellen Law, giving a world debut to a Mercedes-Benz ML350 prototype, suffered a spectacular exit when the car rolled in the early part of the day's first of 2 special stages. Law and co-driver Detlef Ruff were both unhurt, but the car was beyond repair. Quad bike racer Ricardo dos Santos of Portugal had a tough day, but was keeping his eye on the title.
Today was a long and complicated day, a lot of kilometres, a lot of heat. I lost my navigation system right after the start. The cables were cut, so then I didn't know which way to go. But I managed not to lose much ground because I arrived ahead of my main rivals. I'm not that worried with my classification in relation to the locals. All that matters for me is the world title, and things look under control.
But before any titles could be claimed, 4 more racing stages totaling 950 kilometres still lay ahead. The third leg of the challenge, over a gruelling 354 kilometres, saw Frenchmen on course for victory in both the car and the bike categories. Former world champion bike racer Peter Hansel was looking set for another triumph in the desert. Spaniard Monterde and his Italian co-driver Tiziano Siviero were doing all they could to reel in the runaway Peter Hansel, but wouldn't win a single stage. The UAE's Yahya El-Heli lay third, another 24 minutes behind in his aging Chevrolet pickup. Other drivers didn't fare quite so well. Both Joseph Rosso and David Gabis saw their stage come to a premature end, stuck in the drifting sand dunes. The top 3 held on to their positions in the bike category. France's 2003 world champion Cyril Dupre completed the leg with an extended lead of just over 10 minutes from this year's overall champion-elect, Spain's Marc Coma, with another Frenchman, Casteau, a similar distance adrift in third. Dupre won the Desert Challenge in 2002 and 2003, while Coma needs only to finish the event to clinch the world title. Ricardo dos Santos maintained the overall lead in the quad class, that world title getting closer with each sandy kilometre. Three-time and reigning trucks champion Rustam Minnikhanov, the Prime Minister of the Russian Republic of Tatarstan, wasn't defending his title out with a broken leg. Minnikhanov's Kamaz factory team were the dominant force in the truck section, Vladimir Shazhin holding the advantage in the trucks. There was drama in the bike section on the penultimate day as Cyril Dupre took a wrong turning during the fourth leg's 290-kilometre special stage. He quickly realised his mistake, but lost valuable time getting back on course. However, damage to the reigning champion's lead was kept to a minimum as Mark Comer, his nearest rival, also went off course in Morib. Third-placed David Casteau, who began the event lying second in the world title race, had a bad finish on the day, cartwheeling his bike 5 kilometres before the finish and slipping to almost 30 minutes behind Dupre by the end of the stage. Comer was the first rider to reach the first service point. Dupre was clearly surprised to see his main rival finish ahead of him. Comer had trimmed the Frenchman's lead by 2 minutes. Ricardo dos Santos headed into the final quad bike leg in third place, trailing UAE riders Mustafa Hussein Al-Balushi and Mohamed Al-Shamsi. Stefan Peterhansel, who won the rally in 2002 and 2003, extended his lead at the top of the cars section to 2 hours and 31 minutes after the second last day. Jose Luis Monterde trailed Peterhansel by 42 minutes on the day, but he held a 31-minute lead over Yahya Al-Halali of the UAE, and barring any breakdowns or crashes, most teams expected the positions to remain unchanged. The fifth and final leg of the 2,260-kilometre 5-day trek covered a 526-kilometre course over 2 special stages. Mark Comer started the day 8 minutes behind Cyril Dupre. Comer only needed to finish the rally to seal the World Championship title, so the Spaniard took no chances and effectively handed Dupre his third consecutive Desert Challenge victory. Stefan Peterhansel held a commanding lead and, like Comer, he only needed to reach the finish line in Dubai to realise his goal. Despite that position, Peterhansel extended his lead over Monterde and clinched his third desert title in 4 years by a margin of more than 3 hours. Monterde maintained the second place that he'd held since the end of the first leg of the rally. The Spaniard finished over 42 minutes ahead of third-placed Yahya Al-Halali, the highest-placed UAE driver in the field. Three-time reigning trucks category winner Rustam Minnikhanov missed the rally, but his Kazam team of Vladimir Shazhin, Stanislav Konopko and Eduard Nokolaev did him proud. The Russians not only won the truck category, but they also managed an impressive fourth-place finish overall. Portugal's Dos Santos dutifully won the quad bikes rally world title, despite finishing the Desert Challenge in second place behind the UAE's Mohamed Al-Shamsi. Frenchman Dupre reached the finishing line just ahead of Comer, and the two rivals ended their 5-day battle with a sportsmanlike handshake. Comer was just 11 minutes and 30 seconds off the pace. Peterhansel crossed the finishing line to the sound of applause and multilingual congratulations. The Mitsubishi driver finished the rally 3 hours and 3 minutes in front of Monterde's BMW X5. Dupre took to the podium on his KTM, making it an all-French rostrum. But the celebrations didn't last long. All the teams, drivers and riders will soon start preparing for the Dakar Rally. So, whether you're bumping into your neighbours or just sliding out for a Chinese roll, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.